another team like the Spurs, like the Pistons, even. If you had told me Boston was going to be the 2 seed, I would have. Not so egregious. I would have laughed at you, but I just don't know if I would have believed you because we knew Tatum was going to miss most of the season. We didn't know how much. We thought maybe he'd even miss the whole season, depending on how the season went. They kind of collapsed in the second round of the playoffs last year. They moved on from Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Al Horford. So it kind of seemed like a quasi-reset year. But the operation is just simply too good in Boston for that to end up being the case. And also random, year 9, year 10 Jaylen Brown leap, where he showed he could truly be a Batman and was not just always going to be Jason Tatum's Robin. He was phenomenal this year. He's probably ended up being first-team All-NBA, which is insane to think about.
Is it really year?
He's going to be in MVP ballots, too.
Yeah,
it's year 10 for him. That's crazy.
Year 10.
That's like a year 10 breakout season.
So it's him, and then obviously you still have Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, but then they find these kind of project pieces that have bounced around a little bit or, had been given up on by former teams, and Neemias Queta to play center, Luka Garza as a bit of a stretch option, also a big man. Sam Hauser's still there. Baylor Shireman's been great down the stretch. Metro Shubin legend Baylor Shireman. Shout out Creighton. And then with Joe Mazzulla at the helm, they just kind of seem like they're just not going to ever not win 50 games at this point, no matter who runs out there. Yeah. They just play so connected. They have the perfect identity. They know how to game the game in terms of getting extra possessions and, threes are worth more than 2, yada, yada, yada. I've announced that twice this podcast, but I guess, it is what it is. Phenomenal accomplishment from them. Joe Mazzulla is probably going to win Coach of the Year, and it's deserved because just a fantastic coaching job. And also credit to the players. I mean, there's legit ballers out there, but wild that they're here as the 2 seed.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a gap year.
Yep, exactly.
And instead, Jaylen Brown is, I think, going to be All-NBA first team. He's going to be on MVP ballots. Jason Tatum returned, played 32 minutes a game, was actually pretty solid, all things considered. You compare that to what Tyrese Halliburton has looked like. Where Halliburton's fat now, but that's because he has some
the medication side effects.
Yes.
Yep.
So you can only call him Halliburger as a joke.
Yep. In love.
Yeah, in love.
As a Celtics fan, I'm allowed to call him Halliburger.
What was supposed to be?
I mean Pacers fan. Sorry, we're talking about the Celtics, and I just.
What was supposed to be a gap year, and they now have the best odds to win the conference. I think the health issues is going to be the biggest question mark at this point. While it may have been they were just resting Jaylen Brown, he was also listed as an Achilles injury.
Scary.
And he missed their last game because of an Achilles was what was listed, not a calf, an Achilles. You also have Tatum coming off an Achilles injury. Is he going to be able to play a full series, multiple full series? But the biggest question for me is roster composition, and from a basketball perspective, the 5 spot. Queta, Luka Garza, and Nikola Vucevic. When this team won the NBA Finals and won the championship, they had a healthy, dominant Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah.
When they didn't, it was because Al Horford was playing the 5, and they didn't get consistent minutes at the 5 and a consistent presence at the 5, or it was Kristaps Porzingis with AIDS, and he just couldn't play well, or he didn't play at all. On top of the fact that none of those players have postseason experience outside of Nikola Vucevic, who his only experience is losing in the playoffs after 5 games. And I'm pretty sure that only experience is in the bubble, too.
Yeah, I think that's right.
It was in the bubble against the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if he ever made
won
it
game 1
on the Magic as an 8 seed or something like that, but I don't think they did.
That was with the Magic.
With the Magic.
It was the
Magic. He probably has some playing experience with the Bulls then.
Yes, he definitely has playing experience, but I
think the Bulls made it once as the 8 seed and got trashed.
Maybe.
Regardless,
I remember them
he
winning
have legitimate playoff experience.
Game 1 with the Magic in the bubble against the Bucks. Jonathan Isaac was really good in that game. But if the matchups that they're going to face, if Embiid does return in the first round somehow at some point, it's a bad matchup for regardless of who they play. at that 5. In round 2, you're going to play Karl Anthony Towns. I'm really scared for that matchup, and I do think the Knicks are going to be in a really good spot again against the Celtics. And if they're in the finals somehow, then they're going to play either Wemby, either Jokic. You have the duo of Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, Donovan Clingan potentially.
Yeah.
All of those potential final matchups. I don't know if they're going to have the defense to defend any of those guys. More specifically, my biggest fear would be Karl Anthony Towns, and then whoever's they face in the finals, whether that's Jokic or Wemby or the duo that the Thunder have. I think it's a bad matchup, a really bad matchup.
It's a great point because it simply is. Like, as much as those guys have impressed and overachieved this year, no one in their right mind, not even Boston, well, most likely not any Boston fans are going to try and say that they have the advantage in the front court there. And it's not even necessarily a Kada thing. I'm more nervous for when it has to be Garza or Vucevic because both those guys are pretty solid offensive options. The defense really drops off there. Like, when Kada's not on the floor, they struggle to rebound. The big struggle to cover. It's just a lot more like just drop coverage. Like, I remember watching the Spurs about a month ago play the Celtics, and when Luka Garza came in, it was like, well, this is kind of just food. So it is definitely the weakness of the team because it is for sure not the guards. It's for sure not the Jays and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Is the ceiling for this team finals appearance? Because from the way you talk about it, they don't have the post play to beat who we expect to come out of the West in the Spurs, the Nuggets, or the Thunder. And you talk about the injuries. Do you trust Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum enough, both of them, one of them banged up and the other coming off of an Achilles injury, to beat one of those teams in a best-of-7 series after having already played 3 series leading up to it?
I think the ceiling is winning it all.
I do too.
Still,
I do think they can. I think they can. I think they reserve and deserve the right to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference.
Agreed.
And so I do think they can win 12 games. Can they win the Final 4 and get to 16? I think so.
It's just a thing of, like, you watch them play, and if you're rooting for their team, it absolutely sucks because they're just going to rain threes on you, and it's going to be the ninth guy on the bench is going to come in and drill 2 corner threes, and they're going to be huge momentum swinging. And then aside from that, when they're right and when they're in the right mindset, you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown working downhill, getting into the paint, finishing at the rim, but then also, they can spray out to open threes, and they can hit threes of their own, all led and by the mastermind Joe Mazzulla. Like, it's really scary and really, honestly, just frustrating to face their offense.
I think if
it's
they
just
got
well-oiled.
a matchup like the Spurs in the finals,
100%
with the
could
lack of
beat the
experience,
Spurs.
they could 100% beat the Spurs. So I think they can
at
win
that
it.
point, the Spurs will have at least 12 games of experience, though.
This is true.
Yeah, but the Spurs will also have played a series against Donovan Clingan, Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, and then the Thunder, more than likely, and they could be bruised and battered
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.